other words, ah, the ah sound. Let me be more specific. So, for example, they would pronounce the aleph as ah, the bet as ba, and so on and so forth. And then the ayin would make the I as in pi sound. So they claim there's only ah and I in ancient Hebrew, quote unquote. The reality is, though, that the language that they promote is actually a concoction that was created by Arya, as some assert, at One West, and it is blatantly showing an ignorance of how Shemitic languages actually work. And I say Shemitic because, of course, a lot of the proponents of Lashawan Qadash don't like the term Semitic, but it is what it is. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and play the video and let you hear the argument that Carozza is about to propose. Now, Carozza makes the assertion that the proper pronunciation for peace in Hebrew is shalom. He asserts that this is shin lamed mem, and he is going to make an assertion regarding the wa. So I'm going to go ahead and let him present the argument, and then I will begin the refutation.
So this is what y'all need to understand, because y'all not speaking Hebrew, okay? Y'all in for a treat. This is shalom. You understand? Right here. This is in the Assyrian, or what they call Babylonian. You understand?
I have it on the back of my chain.
Right, you got it on the back. Now, what you're going to see here, Asha, Allah, and Amah. Shalom. Now, I'm going to educate y'all. Sometimes in the scriptures, you might see, Asha, Allah, Awa, and Amah. Now, here's the reason why. If y'all ever notice, sometimes you're going to see little dots, and like you might see something like this. They got things called comets and all these other weird little things because they infused vowels into our language. The thing is that these three letters are purely consonantal sounds. There's no vowels here. So what happens is that later on in manuscripts, they added the wa, because this wa could be a y, it could be a va, it could be a u, it could be an o, depending on the vowel point that you see. So if they just see this, they get confused in modern Hebrew because there's supposed to be an o here, but there is no o because there is no vowel here. That's why in any modern translation or modern document, if you go to Israel right now and you see a newspaper or magazine, you're only gonna see this. So realistically, how are both of these pronounced? Anybody know? Anybody know? No, you don't, you know? They both shalom. How can this be shalom and how can this be shalom? Why does the white man pronounce it like this? Because they're adding the vowel in there. So realistically, if you study Hebrew at all, shalom, shalom. There is no shalom.
Okay, now that we have heard Carozza's argument, I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the refutation. For starters, Carozza seems unaware of the fact that in our oldest Hebrew manuscripts, the Dead Sea Scrolls, we actually have the very spelling that he asserts is so-called a later invention. In other words, we have the very spelling for the word for peace with the wa in it in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And what I'm going to do is, I have it on my screen already. You guys can see this little icon. I'm going to enlarge it. There we go. I'm going to cover up Carozza's face. So just found out about this cool little feature that I didn't know I could use. So as you can see on your screen, this is from the Dead Sea Scrolls. I believe that this is Isaiah 9 and 6 in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this. Remember, Carozza makes the assertion that the wa was introduced much later. He almost goes on to insinuate that the wa was introduced in modern times, but the reality is that the wa is found in our oldest extant Hebrew manuscripts. which would include the great Isaiah scroll, which you are looking at on your screen right now. So if you can look, hopefully this isn't too small for everyone out there. In fact, I'll try to enlarge it just a little bit more, see if it'll cover up the whole screen. Let's try this right now. You have the Shin, the Lamed, the Wa, and the Mem. But it doesn't just stop at Isaiah 9 and 6. Let's go ahead and try this with two more verses. So this is Isaiah 26 and 3, again, in the Great Isaiah Scroll, which is part of the collection found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And as you can see on your screen, again, Shin, Lamed, Wa, Mem. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show Isaiah 54 and 13. And this one is much more clear. Shin, Lamed, Wa, Mem. See, now with that being said, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to debunk the assertion that the Wa cannot make the O sound, because proponents of Lashawan Qadash assert that Hebrew can only make the Ah and the I sound. Ah for every other character of the Hebrew alphabet, and I for the ayin, which they assert makes the I as in pi sound. Well, let's go ahead and debunk that assertion right now. If you look at your screen, on the left-hand side, you have the Hebrew. And this is 2 Samuel 13 and 1. And this is actually the name of David's son, which in the King James would be pronounced Absalom, but in actual Hebrew would be Abishalom. Now, notice the Shin, Lamed, Wa, and Mem. Now, if you look on the right-hand side, you'll notice that you have the Septuagint reading. And the Septuagint is the first Bible translation that was made. It was translated from the Hebrew into the Greek by the Israelites centuries before the time of the apostles. This is very significant. Look at how they render the name of David's son, and let's see if it includes a vowel that they assert couldn't possibly exist in ancient Hebrew. Well, if you look at your screen, you'll notice, and I'm gonna spell this out in English, so this way it's a little clearer for the audience out there. So you have the S, the A, the L, the O, because it's the omega, and the M. So in the Greek language, you did not have the SH or the sh sound. So sigma or S was incorporated. Now, if we include the SH sound, what do we have? Instead of Salom, we have Shalom. The very same pronunciation that he claims the Jews introduced with diacritical marks much later in history is actually found in our oldest translation of the Bible, centuries before the time of the apostles. How in the world did Carozza not know this? This is amazing that something so obvious like this was unknown by him. But this is the case with most proponents of Lashawan Qadash. They make baseless assertions, and then when they are called on their assertions, they have no answers. The reality of the matter is that Carozza is ignorant. As much as he tries and as much as he can spell out the word peace using Hebrew letters, he is ignorant of the history of the language, and he is ignorant of how Semitic or Shemitic, if they prefer, languages actually work. Now, what I'm going to do is one last thing. I'm going to post this on my screen. This is from Genesis 11 and 5, both in the actual Yiddish, which incorporates the square script, And on the left-hand side, you have the actual Hebrew. The one that they assert is Yiddish. Well, we're going to find out in a moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if I can enlarge this a little bit more. And we're going to take a good look at this. All right, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay, I guess that's as big as it is. All right. So I want everyone to take a look at their screens, and hopefully you guys can see it. Can my audience out there see it? Hopefully y'all can see this. All right, there we go. Maybe that'll help things. So let's look at the Yiddish on the right-hand side. Again, this is Genesis 11 in verse 5. Verse 5 is highlighted. So I wanted everyone to take a look at how God's name is spelled in actual Yiddish and how God's name is spelled in the Hebrew that they ignorantly assert is Yiddish. There we go. So it is Yahweh over here, and in Yiddish, actual Yiddish, it is Gat. Now I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to go ahead and present, or I should say read, the pronunciations. So this is the actual Yiddish. This is what you're looking at highlighted in the blue. Hat Gat apergindert stu zen dostot den Turem vos dim mesekinder hoben geboit. Now, in actual Hebrew, the Hebrew that they in ignorance assert is Yiddish, this is how it sounds. And this right here proves that the Hebrew that they call Yiddish and actual Yiddish are two completely different languages altogether. Now, in actual Hebrew, Vayerer Yahweh lirot et ha'eir ve'et hamagidal asher banu. And for some reason, this thing is not letting me scroll down. Banu bene ha'adam. So there you have it. Actual Hebrew on the left-hand side, actual Yiddish on the right-hand side. How these men are still using the argument that the pronunciations that they disagree with are somehow Yiddish is beyond me. This is embarrassing, to say the least. I highly implore Carozza and other proponents of Lashawan Qadash to reevaluate the faulty arguments they're employing, because this isn't making them look good. This is making them look incredibly ignorant. Carozza looks incredibly, incredibly ignorant. As tempted as I am to make a little joke, I know if G-Con were watching right now, he'd probably want me to make a Cesar Borgia joke, but I'm not going to go there with him. I'm not going to go there with Carozza. I feel that Carozza looks incredibly ignorant purely off of his argumentation, not the way that he looks. This is absolutely, positively ridiculous. Seriously. There should be no reason why these men in 2019, with the advent of the internet and information at their disposal, for goodness gracious, they can Google this stuff on their phones today. This is not hard to fact check. It's not hard to do research. You can go online, you can get the Dead Sea Scrolls just like I did, and then you can look up things like this. Look at your screen. You can look up things like this to make sure that your arguments aren't faulty and are not easily debunkable. I mean, look, I'm going to just run through these one more time. All of this can be found on the internet. This is amazing to me. All of this. Utterly, utterly ridiculous, man. It astonishes me, the level of pure foolishness that is being utilized by proponents of Lashawan Qadash in order for them to continue to promote something that is false. For my brothers and sisters out there, please keep these men in prayer. Please keep people like Chaataza in prayer, because it goes beyond just this faulty dialect. This dialect that Arya, as has been alleged, concocted. It goes way beyond just the faulty dialect. This goes into virtually every part of their doctrine. Truth be told, these men do not actually know the Hebrew language, and they absolutely positively don't know, which is the more important point here, I think, overall in the grand scheme of things. They don't know Christ. And so I would ask my brothers and sisters in Christ to keep these people in prayer, that they would hopefully, if it be the Lord's will, come out of that deception and truly come to know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. But for Carozza, if you watch this video, I beseech you to look into this information. And if you still disagree with me, we can very easily set up a cordial, time formatted, i.e., formal debate where we can actually discuss this topic, and I can show you definitively why Lashawan Qadash is in fact a fraudulent dialect because it is not ancient Hebrew, and why the Hebrew that you reject actually has tons and tons of support in antiquity. So, with that being said, I'm going to end things here. I had to do this one over, and hopefully, we can get a cordial correspondence, hopefully, in the comment sections with the various proponents of Lashawan Qadash, whether it's Sakari, GMS. It doesn't have to be specifically Chatazaa, although it is primarily targeted at Chatazaa for the for the false or misleading, I would say, information at the very least that he presented in that video. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody who watched this for the second time, and you can expect more content like this in the future. I'm going to try to make these a little more routine. Lord willing, I'll find the time. And with that being said, God bless you all. I hope this has edified someone out there, and